All right, welcome to the show. We're back. We have a really interesting show today. Matt has been telling me about this book that he's been reading. So we're going to do a brief overview of the book. He's going to do an introduction, and then we're kind of get into the discussion points about it. The book is called Musashi, a novel by Eiji Yoshikawa. So, Matt, how you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. I think that's how you pronounce it. Sounds right to me.
Yeah, so I know you've been really excited about the book, so definitely.
Yeah, it's a good book. For sure. It's a long one. It's about 1,000 pages, but it's well worth it, I think. Yeah, there's a good book. I picked this book up because, I heard that it was supposed to be a really good book about Musashi, and I'd always been interested in his story. So, yeah, I think it's a great story. Basically, for those people that don't know, Miyamoto Musashi was a samurai, in the early 1600s in Japan. He's famous because he was having a lot of duels with people. He was fighting in an era where there's a lot of peace. So, wars had just ended. And so samurai had to find something new to do. So his whole thing was going around, bettering himself, challenging people to duels, having, I think, like 50 duels, something like that. Not always to the death, but sometimes to the death. And being undefeated in the duels. And then afterwards writing, the Book of Five Rings, which people read for the wisdom that he learned from his life and the lessons that he imparted in that book. And then, that's pretty much what he's famous for.
Yeah, and Musashi is just one of those figures that everyone basically knows. Mm-hmm. At least they've heard of Musashi. Mm-hmm. And basically, like, anyone that does any type of training, if they're in the military, if there's any like slight interest in martial arts or anything like that, people have a conception of who Musashi is. But I think it's going to be really interesting to do a deep dive into like who he actually was as a person. And I know you were mentioning about this book that it's a historical fiction book. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure a lot of the stuff about his life is inferred. A lot of the stuff, they kind of fill in the gaps. I know historically there's not a ton of information about this guy, but I think it's really interesting that a novel like this can kind of fill in the gaps of maybe the stuff that we might not know.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there is like a biography of him if you want to go out and read, like get all the details that historians say. The value of this book is that a lot of it is based in truth, like this Musashi book. I guess this is like the older version and there's the new cover, but it's the same book. But the value of this book is that it's like a classic, like 1,000-page work of literature that was written in 1930s in Japan. Originally it was released, week by week in like a newspaper, I think, and then later they put it into a book. But it's like a classic work of literature that sold like over 100 million copies in Japan. And a lot of people, from my understanding from reading about it online, is that a lot of people over there perceive it as like one of the great works of literature in Japanese history that everyone knows. Like over here, you might say like Huckleberry Finn.
Oh, interesting.
Or
okay.
like
so
The Grapes
on that
of Wrath
level?
or something like that. Yeah, exactly.
Wow, okay.
Like on that level, like one of those books that everyone knows, like a classic. That's like a great, maybe like East of Eden, like one of those John Steinbeck books. It's like long, has a good story to it and a good conclusion. But yeah, that would basically, that's the basic gist of it. And the book covers not just the story of Musashi and his training and his adventures and his duels, which it covers that, and that's the main thing, and also the lessons that he learns in there and his approach to life and his philosophies. But it also covers like other characters from the village he grew up in, from people he interacts with, and people that he might just see in passing. So it has a lot of character development. There's a lot of dialogue and a lot of characters are really fleshed out. So it's a really long book, but if you're willing to commit to that length and those stories, then the reward you get is the story of Musashi and the adventures and all that.
Yeah, that's probably the most intimidating thing about this book is it's so damn long. right? It's like,
yeah, exactly. It's a long one.
Yeah, it's like, dude, how much do
Took
I?
me a while to read it.
How much do I have to know about the person? I know he killed like 60 people,
Yeah.
like badass. Like, what
Yeah.
else is there to know? But sounds like if you're willing to invest the time, you really get to the character of the person.
Yeah, you get to the character. I would say, like if you're a literature nerd, it's kind of like reading like East of Eden or one of those classic literature books. Like, so it's worth it just for that, for the character development, for the writing. But then I guess what we're more interested in today is not necessarily the literature nerd part, but like taking away, like what is the interesting parts about Musashi as like the great warrior? Like what are the lessons that he had? Like why should someone read the book for that reason? So I think, but for both reasons, you can read the book. But yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. And I guess one thing, I guess before we go any further, I can explain, like if you look at the picture, like you can see he has the full head of hair.
Yeah.
Like he has hair on the top of his head. But my understanding is that like in the samurai culture, you would shave the top of your head and you would just have the back part with the hair growing out. But so this is significant because he had like a skin condition, so he grew the hair out on the top of his head. So that's like a unique thing.
Oh, so that's something that he did that was against the grain.
Yeah, it was just
So
like
he would look weird, like
he would look weird with that full head of hair.
right.
Like most people shave
maybe
their
they
head.
wouldn't see him as a samurai. They see him with like long hair, whatever.
Yeah.
He looks like more of a, I don't know, vagrant or like
Yeah, wandering hobo or something.
yeah, hobo. Yeah, because the samurai, the picture I get from samurais is that they're really like stoic. They're, I would imagine like a Marine. They're like probably like their dress is like impeccable. They keep all their shit clean, their sword clean. Everything is like polished. Like, you know, like today, like someone in the military, their full, you know, military getup where everything is crisp and clean.
Oh,
so I
yeah.
imagine like that's what a typical samurai would look like back in the day. But like you mentioned that, maybe that's like, this is gonna be, Musashi is one of those characters. He's like a Marine, but he's not a typical Marine. He's like a Marine where, what's that one movie, Sicario? Have you seen that movie?
I think I've seen it about the drug war.
Yeah,
in
about the
Mexico.
drug war. So there is one character, there's a Marine there that works for like the Secret Service or something like that. And he is in like a total like hippie get out. He's wearing like flip-flops, long hair. So maybe like Musashi would be one of those characters where he's like non-conformist.
Right.
Maybe he has trouble with authority.
Yeah, he's like the dude as a Navy SEAL.
He's the dude, yeah.
Big Lebowski.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty wild. But yeah, if you want, I can provide like an overview of it.
Yeah.
Just like a quick summary,
absolutely.
like, you know, not the whole 1,000 pages, but just like the highlights from the beginning to end, and the major maybe 5 or 10 characters in there. So basically the way the book starts is like Musashi is basically, he's in a village. He comes from a samurai family. So his father was a samurai. I think his father is dead at this point. And I think his mother died giving birth to him. So he's kind of just like, you know, he's just like a character who has like some issues, maybe like a chip in his shoulder, and he's kind of perceived as like physically strong, but he's a little rebellious and a wild character. And then his best friend is this guy, Manahachi. So Manahachi is his best friend, and then they're both from the same village, and they both come from samurai families with like good histories and like, you know, lots of respect and lots of tradition, and they're about high school age. And then so there's this great battle, the Battle of Sekigahara, I think is how you pronounce it. But this was like the last battle that unified Japan under the shogun. And before this, there was like 100 years of civil wars where there was a huge demand for like warriors and samurai, and like each of these lords need to have thousands of troops to field for the battle. And so if you trained and became a samurai, there's always a job for you. And there was always like respect and honor because you could go fight and people would respect you because you were a warrior. Now there's this peace period. You have one shogun that rules the whole country. He needs some samurai, but he doesn't need nearly as many as he needed before. So there's a lot of people sort of wandering around.
So it's dying off a little bit.
It's dying off. So it starts off, he's in this battle with his friend, Manahachi. They go into the battle. and they basically get like knocked out or something like that because they don't really remember anything, and they wake up and there's all these dead bodies around them. And then they find that there's some woman who's like picking through the dead bodies, like picking the armor off the samurai, and they're like, what's this woman doing? So they sort of follow her, and then she goes to her house, and then what happens is like that girl and her mother, they were involved in a business which I think was a real business at the time, where people would go to the corpses and they would take their swords and armor and then resell them. So they're basically like eBay flippers or something like that.
Right, so they're picking through the terrain.
Yeah, they're picking through the terrain and they're selling those armor and weapons to people. And then, but then it turns out that the lord who becomes the shogun of Japan, he was fighting on the other side of Musashi and Manahachi. They were fighting for the lord that lost. So they were kind of afraid, like, oh, maybe that guy's going to want vengeance and kill us. So the woman and her daughter that are the flippers, or whatever you call it, selling the used armor, they're like, okay, you can hide out with us. Hide out with us for a little bit. And maybe you like chores around the house. Something like that, I think, was what happened. So they end up hiding out in the house with them. And then this is like, what happens next is like the first moment that demonstrates in the book that Musashi is like a bad motherfucker, basically. So there's this dude who's kind of like, he's kind of like a thug, like a gangster who has like goons like working for him. He's not like a general, he's not like a highly important lord, but just like in this village, he's kind of like, you know, the mafia, like a small local mafia type of, like the equivalent of that, basically. And so he's going around to this woman, and he's like, you have to pay me, you know, 10 or 20% or whatever it is of the armor you sell. Or maybe, I think it was like you weren't allowed to sell it unless you had his permission. So he was upset, like, what are you doing flipping the armor? Only people that pay me a fee can do that. And then there was this argument. And then basically Musashi, you know, he's like, well, I'm staying in this house and people are getting attacked. So then he goes in there and starts fighting the people off and demonstrates his superior swordsmanship and, you know, scares them off. And basically, you know, then after that, they're like, oh, we have to get the fuck out of here because that guy's gonna come back and kill us all. So then basically they leave. But the way that it happens is like Musashi gets separated from the mother and the daughter and his friend Manahachi, because they leave early and he's like sleeping late or something like that. And they leave him a note and they're like, oh, we're gone, whatever. So then he is forced at that point to return to his village. But that's basically most of the book, is like all those subplots. And then in the end, the way that it wraps up, climax of the book, and they kind of build up to it, where logically you're like, this is what's going to happen. There's going to be a duel between the two great samurai, which is Musashi and the guy with the longsword, Kojiro. And that's what you're wanting, because you're like, oh, he's already beaten all his other people, and they keep talking about how Kojiro is so good, so he has to fight Kojiro. And then there's even like references to it where people are like, oh, like, so finally the very end is I can't remember how it goes down or why it happens, but there's some sort of duel between Musashi and Kojiro, and they do it on an island, and they're like, okay, be there at like 9, 10 in the morning, something like that. And I think it was like 8 or 9 in the morning maybe. And then Musashi is staying with, and most of the people are supporting Kojiro because he's working with the Lord, like his presence is more known. And Musashi is just kind of like, he has powerful friends, but he's just kind of like a wandering dude. He's not really like trying to build political connections. He's not trying to have a job. Like he doesn't really care about all that. So the only people that are friends with him are people he encounters that see that he's like a good person, and then they just want to be friends with him. So he's not like actively like cultivating alliances. But there is someone that's friends with him, and he's staying in that guy's house, and that guy is like, oh, this is the morning of your duel. It's like time for you to wake up and go. It's like 9 o'clock right now. And Musashi's sitting in there, and he's just painting. And he's like, okay, yeah, I'll go in a little bit. And then he's like, keeps painting for like another hour. And then basically like, because he had learned from that other artist or some other, maybe there's another one that he encountered, I can't remember. But so he starts doing these other things like painting and like poetry, and you start seeing the value in that too. Like he doesn't just spend all his time sword training anymore. And someone asked him to paint a painting, or maybe he did it as a gift for the person letting him stay in their house. So he's like, I have to finish this first, because he's like, oh, I might die in the duel or whatever, so I have to like make sure everything is finished. But anyway, so he finishes that, and he has no sense of urgency. And there's like another theme he does a couple times in other duels, is like people will agree to a time to duel with him, and he'll just show up late, and the other person will be like, ah, and he's like, all right, now I have the advantage, because you've lost your cool, now you're getting emotional, and now I can just execute my plan, and I can choose like what angle to attack, because you're already sitting there in one position. So that was one thing that he did, and he did that with this duel with Kojiro also. So he shows up at the little island in a canoe. He goes there in a canoe, I think. And then Kojiro is there, and all the lords are there to be like the judges, and that's pretty much it. And Kojiro is like, we've been waiting for you for like an hour or two. Like, what is going on? Are you ready to fight, or are you a coward? And then he's like so worked up, and he's so amped up. And then Kojiro, as soon as this is another thing. So most of the people are fighting with like what you would consider like the samurai sword, like the katana or the other one. There's like the long one and a short one. Musashi, he develops the technique of fighting with like two swords. So he fights with both the long one and the short one. That's one of his innovations that he develops. So that's like another subplot, is that he developed this idea of fighting with two swords at the same time. And then a lot of times he fights with like a wooden training sword, and he still beats the other person to death because he's like so good somehow. So when he goes to this duel with Kojiro, and Kojiro has his regular long metal samurai sword, and Musashi's going there with his regular sword. When he's in the canoe and someone else is rowing it, he's just sitting there, and he noticed there's like an oar for the canoe. There's like an old one that's sitting in the bottom. He's like, oh, are you using this oar? He's like, no, I was gonna throw that away. So he just takes it, and he has a knife, and he like whittles it into a training sword, like from the time that it took him to get on the canoe or whatever, like 10 minutes or whatever. And then once he gets there, he just steps out with that wooden sword that he just made from an oar, and he goes to attack Kojiro. And Kojiro's like, we've made free for an hour or two. And what are you doing? You're playing games, and what's going on here? It's time for you to die. And he's like, okay, let's go. And then he just comes at Musashi because he's so angry. And then he swung at him, and he cut off Musashi's like the hair, like the ponytail. And so the hair goes flying, and Kojiro sees that, and he's like, oh, I must have chopped his head off. So he was like very happy. And this all happens in like a millisecond. But in another millisecond, Musashi had like ducked, and he came up with a wooden sword and smacked him on the head and killed him. And then that was it. And then he goes into the canoe, and then right before he got in the canoe, like on the beach, on the land, that Otsu woman that has been like in love with him, and there's a couple scenes where she like approaches him, and he's just like, oh, okay, I do have feelings for you, but I have to be so focused on training. Then in the end, he makes some comment where the woman's like, are you gonna reciprocate my love? Like, are you gonna marry me or whatever? Am I just wasting my time? I can't remember what she says. And then he says some line, and she's like crying, and he says, it's a pretty good line, but it's something like, but he doesn't answer her directly, but he says this. He's like, a samurai's wife should send him away happy, not with tears, so that he will fight better, something like that. So he's like, you have to be happy for me. And it's like, well, okay, so that's your answer right there. But then that's basically all he says. And then he gets in the boat and leaves. And then he does that, what I just said, with a wooden sword. And then it's like the book is over. So it's kind of like a crazy end. It doesn't really resolve that. But yeah, that's basically the whole story right there. And then the little subplots and all these other things that go on. Yeah, so I think like if you want like 4 interesting themes or 4 interesting plot lines or whatever that are interesting about it. So like the one is like the divergence between Musashi and his friend Marahachi. So it's like one person chooses the way of the samurai and the way of the sword, and the other one is kind of like starts that way, but then it's just like becomes a drunk and hanging out with prostitutes, and then is just like loafing around, and then there's parts where he's like trying to scam people, and then later he's like gets caught up in a scheme to like, you know, like a terrorist plot to like rob someone, and then he has to become a monk to repent for that, and then he feels like when he runs into Musashi, he's like, I wasted my life. So that's like a very interesting subplot, like that whole thing. And then his friend's mom is like chasing him around. So like that whole thing, like all that dynamic of like his friend and his friend's family and like everyone from the village and like all that stuff.
Do you have anyone like that where maybe you grew up with someone and you were like really close with them, and years later, like they went one path and then you kind of went a different path?
I don't know. I can't really think of someone like that where there was like that big of a huge gap. But I don't know. What, do you have somebody like that? Where it's like
I guess,
huge
yeah, there's
difference?
definitely like people, like friends that I see that they're like married, they have like 4 kids or something. It's like, wow, okay. They kind of chose to go down one path, and people get further and further apart. Where, you know, when you're like a kid, you can be friends with your neighbor as long as you're the same age. You get along with pretty much anybody. But once you're older, you know, once like, you know, people in their 40s, they're just, people are so divergent and people are so different that you kind of don't get along with everybody anymore. There's like people go into different buckets.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So from that story, it seems like one of his friends, the moral of that story is like one of his friends wishes that he was more like Musashi. He kind of like messed up. But is there a case for like maybe like the way that dude was living is okay, and maybe the way
the argument
Musashi
would be like Musashi, I don't think ever gets laid in the whole book, and the other dude at least has a couple girls. So
okay,
that
so
would be the argument.
He did something right. Yeah, maybe there's something to say that like today it's someone that's a workaholic. All they do is work, and let's say they drop dead of a heart attack because they're stressed out all the time at 45. Well, you put in all that effort, you know, you worked your butt off, you did everything the right way, and what's the reward? Is you're just kind of, you know, there's no payoff. Whether someone that is just decided to just enjoy their life, they like, you know, had good experiences, but they have nothing to show for it. So I guess there's extremes, you know, like who's to say like one way is better than the other. Musashi is definitely someone that has one extreme. You know, he's definitely an extreme type of person. But I like when you mention it kind of, that story kind of seems to lean into like Musashi is the gold standard, like that. Well, you should have done that,
Right.
So I don't know. I think there's an argument to be made that maybe that isn't the best way to live for everybody.
No, not everyone wants to be a samurai like Musashi.
Warrior monk.
Yeah, warrior monk, exactly. Just wandering around training all day.
Yeah. So that's an interesting like theme of the book, and I see that how that can be relevant today. What do you lean more towards? Do you lean more towards like be super focused, accomplish something, leave something in this world, be a great person, or do you lean towards something like, hey, let's just enjoy life?
I mean,
let's have a beer once in a while. We don't have to like overdo it. You know, like what do you think?
I think that's like the ultimate discussion of like my life or probably most people's life is like the battle, the internal dialogue between those two types of personas. So it's like both are there in strong amounts. And it's like the battle between two of them. And when the Manahachi one is winning, that's like you might have a good time, but you're probably not accomplishing much and you're getting fat or whatever. But then when the Musashi one is winning, that's when it's like, oh, you're getting better at martial arts, or like you're making more money, or like something is improving measurably, but maybe you're not having as much fun. Maybe you're stressed out all the time.
And I think it says something about that time period where the Musashi types, where there's a way. Everyone is working their art, no matter what your profession is, no matter if you're a bus driver, no matter if you're a potter.
Oh, yeah.
The way is just be the best at what you're doing. And I think that's really compelling way to make a really cohesive society get put together. But I think in our era, we live in a much different era where we're about individualness. You know, everyone's happiness. What's your feelings? Make sure, you know, your mental health and stuff is taken care of. So there's good things about the how we think today, but it's very different than I think the era that Musashi and that kind of era kind of thought. So yeah, like what you're saying, it's hard to say like what is kind of the better way to think.
No, I mean, I think the Musashi way is better. It's just that you have to have your biological needs met. So, you know what I mean? Like, you're going to have to eat and sleep and have sex and eat foods that taste good and play video games.
But Musashi would be like, hey, you're not disciplined enough.
Not disciplined.
You know what I mean? Yeah. You're a bum. So they would kind of look, I feel like Musashi would kind of look down on that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Musashi seemed like he was kind of a bum too. He leeched off of people.
Yeah.
He didn't really have a job for a period of time.
Yep.
He was just obsessed with one thing. So maybe a little hypocritical.
Yeah, exactly. He's just like focused on one thing of life. He's not well-rounded. Not in the beginning, not till later. Yeah. And then even when there's several characters, especially Otsu, like women that are interested in him, that are attractive too. They're not just like bums. And it's like he could have like a really awesome girlfriend, but instead he's just like, no, I cannot do that. I must turn that part of my brain off.
That seems super strange. That seems very, very weird.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty weird.
Yeah.
But then they make it clear.
Maybe he's just not interested.
No, but they make it clear like he's interested in women and he's interested in that Otsu woman, but he's just like suppresses that part of himself. He like turns it off. He's just like, I will just train all day. And then I think it's something in the book, he has a line where he's like, oh, one day when I've done everything, then I'll have a woman or something. However, once he's accomplished, whatever, he gets to that point, whatever it is.
That's interesting because the way they thought back in the day is that if I'm not focused on martial arts and my training, everything else takes away from that. Anything else that I put my attention to is a net negative to the great swords person that I want to be. I think today's way, the modern way of people thinking about it, is that there's things that you invest in and that'll help you over time. So let's say, like, I have a partner, I have a wife. That of course is going to take some investment, but I think a lot of people would argue that in the end, this relationship I have with this person, or let's say whatever other things that you study, that doesn't have to be a hindrance. That can be something that will, in the long run, help like whatever your goals are. So I think just a different way of looking at it. What side do you tend to go towards?
I mean, I go towards the lazy side. That is the state of nature.
That's what Musashi would say. Yeah. That's the lazy side. You're weak. You're giving in to your inner urges.
Giving in to
the
urges.
If you do that, you lose.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, and then I wake up and I'm like, okay, it's time to be more like Musashi. It's time to do some push-ups, go to the gym, train.
More of an
whatever.
aesthetic.
Yeah, you got it. Now it's time to go. But it's interesting what you said earlier, because like the way the people lived back then, they had like, now it's individualism. Back then it was like, I think it's called communitarianism or something like that. There's a term for it. I was reading about it recently, but like where it's like the purpose of setting up a government or a system of organizing people is not just like to value the individual rights of everyone. Like, yes, everyone can have rights or whatever, but that's not just like the end all be all. It's like everyone has an obligation to also look out for their neighbors and like have a sense of solidarity with everyone and have like a common culture and things like this. But it's like that doesn't exist in like the modern world or whatever. Like it's more just like everyone pursues their own thing, me. And as long as you don't murder someone or commit a major crime, it's like just be a greedy bastard and just, but that's not how most countries were organized, or definitely not like in the samurai era in Japan. It wasn't like that. And even like most other places in the world, it was like people were like, this is the way we're living, and then we have to care for people, and we can't just like throw stuff in the street and just be a bum. Like you have to respect everything, and like, it's a different way of thinking.
Yeah. I think a lot of pain is coming out of the way people think today, where, hey, you focused your entire life on myself and what makes me happy as an individual, that's gonna open people up to deep unhappiness.
Yeah.
You're not really connecting with community. You're not really connecting with people. And the things that you're concerned about is, how do I maximize my satisfaction, my happiness? Well, that's never gonna be fulfilled. You're never gonna find happiness. So I think a lot of mental illness today really stems from this like incessant, like greedy, selfish mindset that people have.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. The obsession for like hedonism or whatever, just like pleasure and money and and mindless consumerism. You know what I mean? Like
in culture today, where everyone has their in group. Like I'm part of this group, this group is victimized.
Yeah, there's that too. That's a whole other thing.
Yeah, and that might be true, but
it's not a healthy way to go.
No, it's
every
not,
day thinking like that.
It's not a healthy way to live and to think about things. And it's one thing if you're genuinely concerned about helping other people, helping your neighbors, supporting them. But what a lot of it is that I'm victimized.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm being suppressed. I deserve these things.
Right.
I don't see a lot of like, these people need help. This is what I can do to help. I don't see people going out and kind of like supporting their community. And people who do that, I think they'll like, if you're legitimately concerned about helping your fellow man, like that's where you're gonna find fulfillment. That's where you're gonna
go work in a soup kitchen or something, like actually feed people.
Yeah, don't like just tweet all day like, oh, like this is all the things that is wrong with the world.
Yeah,
because that's just a cover. When I see that, that's just a cover of like, I'm deeply unhappy with my life, and then this is how I'm gonna lash out, and I'm gonna find people to blame.
I think on an individual level that's true, but I think on a group level, it's also it's like political power, like using victimhood for political power, or creating division amongst people for like political power.
That's what the like politicians. That's what they figured out. It's a game.
Or not even the politicians, but like definitely politicians, but like all the power groups in like a democracy, like media groups, universities, nonprofits, like corporations. They might be spreading that message.
The reason why that works, the reason why that like strategy works, is because of the culture of extreme individuality.
Yes, because that individual thinks like what you said, like
and
that victim.
That message is like, hey, this group is taking away from you guys, and you should be upset. Yeah. That's why that messaging is so powerful in today's society.
Right.
It's because people do resonate with it, and they have an emotional attachment to say like, yes, I am being screwed.
Yeah, I'm a
These
special
people are screwing me. Yes. You know, that's why that message is so powerful, where like back in the day, like JFK, I love his speech about like, ask not what the country can do for you, but what you can do for the country. And that really like resonated with people. I'm not saying like things were perfect at that time,
right,
but you can really see the difference in how people thought. And of course, obviously, it's not everyone that's like that. I think there is just that population that's growing. But also, I see like the good things about today's society is like the people who do really embrace like Musashi's ideal about, I'm gonna really hone in my craft. I'm gonna like really master something. Like people like that, I feel like live fulfilling lives in general. So I see a lot of that as well.
Yeah, I mean, you can make the argument this is like the best time to be alive because of the advances in
100%.
technology and medicine and like the ability to start your own business or whatever.
Yeah, 100%.
But you could also make the argument it's the worst time to be alive as far as like the sense of social cohesiveness and having like a culture and like, you know, having like a real sense of belonging, or like things that are important for all of the history of humanity for most people. Like those things kind of fall to the wayside, and now it's like this mindless rat race, you know. And then we're talking about like the social groups. And now it's also interesting because it's kind of like synthetic, because it's a perception that I have of a lot of people that like the ones that consider themselves like cool, it's like they're not really like, yeah, there is some like real social world that goes on, but there's also like the social media world where it's kind of like people are only interacting with other people that have been vetted through like an Instagram algorithm almost, is what it seems like. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like a synthetic way of operating where it's like everything is like a performance, like you're doing something that you don't really like, but you think people like it on Instagram. And you have to have this certain type of car that you can't even afford, that you're leasing, or you're dressed a certain way, you go to a certain place. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's
I know
the thing.
exactly what you're saying. It's very contrived. It's not genuine.
Yeah, it's all phony.
Yeah, where someone like Musashi,
yeah, he wouldn't be doing that.
100% genuine.
Yeah.
Who he is who he is.
Yeah, exactly. He would not be doing that.
That's something you can admire about the man.
Yeah, he's authentic. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Another thing that was interesting in the book is like with all these duels and people that were fighting, it was like so much was at stake, and there wasn't for the most part, there was not really like a culture presented in the book of like, oh, let's learn from Musashi because he's better than us and he maybe invented a new style. It's more just like, this guy has shamed us. Let's all stab him in the back and kill him.
There's that arrogance.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But not even in an honorable way, like a duel. Like some people did that. There were some people who did that, but a lot of people, they were just like ganging up on him because they knew they couldn't beat him one-on-one. So they would go 10 or 20 people and try to attack him and, sneak up in the dark and try to attack him. So it's like, I don't know, that was kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's that mentality where you're gonna win no matter what.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like
matter if you have
what
honor.
can I exactly like what can I learn? What you're saying, like, but let me play devil's advocate. Like, let's say, like you grew up in a gym, whatever, and then back in the day, I'm sure that those like dojos were a lot more close knit. Like that's your family. They grew up with you, and then someone came in, and then just killed like a father figure. Like it's hard to be like, hey, like teach me like how do you I can see like a natural reaction to be like, well, I'm gonna kill this guy who killed this super important person to me. So maybe like the dynamic is a little bit different. And like what you're saying, the stakes are so much higher. You know, where it's a duel, where I know those duels back in the day wasn't always to death, but some of the times it was, you know.
Even if it wasn't, a lot of times they had serious injuries.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Broken arms.
Exactly. What is equivalent to that in today's society? I can't really think of anything where something is that high stakes.
I mean, they had dueling in like the 1800s with like the Andrew Jackson days.
True.
That was a long time ago. But that's not modern.
Yeah.
That would be the closest thing. But like now, I mean, there is kind of like a low-level honor culture amongst certain like gangsters, like where you see people getting shot over stupid shit in the news, or like criminals shooting each other. Oh, you disrespected me or whatever, and oh, now I'm gonna shoot you or whatever. There's like, but that's kind of like stupid shit. But there's that. I guess that's a form of that. But I guess the closest thing now would be like if people had a disagreement and they're like, all right, we're gonna have like an MMA fight now or something, or like there's gonna be some sort of sparring. Like, but that wouldn't be the same thing because not to the death.
Not even
it's
close.
not even close.
Not even close. Yeah.
That would be maybe what the average person would perceive as the closest thing.
You know what? That's really interesting that you brought up like dueling, like pistol dueling that they did.
Oh yeah, in the 1800s or
in the 1800s. Yeah, that was to death. But I don't know too much about pistol dueling.
I don't think it was always to the death. I think a lot of times, I think it was just kind of, I don't know what the rules were, but I think it was like you would shoot a shot, and then if you missed, and then it's possible both people could live or maybe just get injured, but sometimes it was death. But I don't think it was like the knights, where the knights would joust and then they would get off and fight with the swords. I think it was just like, oh, now it's over. I don't think they kept fighting with other weapons.
When I think of dueling, like 1800s dueling, I think of more of, hey, you dishonored me or you disrespected me. Let's duel so I can regain my honor. Yeah, it's not like the samurai is like, let me get really fucking good at dueling, and that's gonna be my profession. I'm gonna go around challenging people to duels to see who is like the best.
But only Musashi was doing that, I think. was going around.
Oh, okay. I thought there was other samurais.
The way that it's presented with other people is they stick with a school, and then like instead of a black belt or something like that, they get a certificate, like a piece of paper that the teacher says like this guy is expert.
I was under the impression that there were other people like Musashi going around.
There was the one other guy,
that
the
was like a
Kojiro
culture.
guy, was kind of doing that.
So that's not like a normal thing to do.
It's not presented like that in the book.
Okay.
No.
When you present it like that, Musashi is looking worse and worse.
He's just like a bully. He's just antagonizing people.
Yeah, it's like, let me go over there. And then they're going to super prideful places where like they're like, obviously they're saying our school is the best school. And Musashi's like, you know what? Let me challenge you and let me kill you.
Yeah.
If that was the culture where like one school is sending people to another school and they're just doing all this constant dueling, I can see like that's how the culture is. But if it's just Musashi, you're like, let me just prove this. It seems kind of an asshole thing to do.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's but I mean, there was other people too. The other people could have de-escalated it or whatever, but yeah, that is kind of like the thing where he's just like going around and being like, oh, I heard this was a good school, I challenge you to a duel. Like, not like let me attend a class and learn. It's just like straight to a duel.
Yeah,
like that was his thing, and so it was kind of crazy. But I think the whole takeaway that made me like, obviously there's a lot of things to think about, but I think like the one thing that's kind of like the deepest thought that I took away from it, because obviously like the samurai culture, they have like the honor culture and like the suicide, and I think it's called like seppuku, and like I mean, I don't think that was like a major part of this book, but it's like something that did happen. But so it's like if you're gonna be one of those warriors, you have to be, and like not even them, but like you could be killed by someone else, you have to be willing to accept death. It's like, or even now, if you go in the army, you have to be willing to accept death. You can't just be like, oh, I just want to go shoot a couple people, but if they shoot back, no, you have to be willing to accept death, or else you're not going to be able to fight. Like, that's part of it. And if you listen to people that talk about combat experience, it's like, they have to accept that they're dying, and then that's how they get over it or whatever. They're just like, oh, if I die, it doesn't matter. However it is, they get around it. It's something like that. But you have to accept it. So for me, it made me think about, like, that is like a philosophical concept where it's like the importance of having something to die for, and then that is kind of what gives your life meaning. Like, basically, like, if you have something to die for, then now you have a life worth living. But it's like, if you don't have something to die for, then it's kind of like you're kind of like the other guy where he's just like with the prostitutes and the drinking, and he's just like loafing around seeking pleasures, but he's not really having, like, if someone pushed him around, he'd be like, oh, like, he's not gonna fight to the death for anything. He has nothing he believes in. Whereas Musashi is willing to fight to the death every day just to prove that he's a good swordsman. So it's like his life has meaning for that reason. But like all those people that were the samurai, there was a line in the book where they said that, where the samurai must wake up and they don't know if they're gonna make it tonight. Because like, even if they're not in the middle of war, maybe they get challenged in one of these duels or whatever it might be. They can't be like, oh no, I don't feel like fighting today. They have to be ready all the time for those fights. So you have to accept that. So it's not like that now. Like, unless you're in the army or something like that, then maybe it's a little bit like that. But
yeah,
if you're working like an office job, like most people, you can't. It's a foreign concept. It's like, I've never even thought about that. The only time I had to think about that, like, I don't know if you've ever thought about that. The only time I had to think about that consciously was when I decided to start motorcycling. And I was like, all right, let me research it. Let me figure out all that goes into motorcycling. And then it was like, oh yeah, there's a chance I might die, and I had to be okay with that. And then these are the pros and these are the cons. And then I consciously accepted that. But that's not the same thing. But it's kind of like, that was the first time I got a taste of that, or the only time where I was like, oh, mortality. I had to think about it. But have you ever thought about something like that?
Not to that extent. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, it's like a foreign concept. That's what I'm saying. But I think maybe there's something to that. Like, maybe that's what gives your life purpose.
Yeah.
When you're like Musashi, where you wake up every day then you're like in an elevated sense of existence. But if you don't have that, you're kind of like a coward. You're kind of like a victim to your, you're not willing to die.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does that mean? Someone could take you and you could sell your own mother into slavery or whatever analogy you want that sounds terrible. And you'd be like, oh, well, that's better than dying. Like,
yeah. Well, maybe you don't have to take it to that extent. Maybe anyone that's ever done anything great, anything remarkable, you have to accept the fact that maybe I'll fail. Maybe it's something like, I'm going to start a business and take that gigantic risk. Well, are you willing to accept the fact that it's going to be a big failure? You're going to be bankrupt. Are you willing to take that risk?
Yeah.
If not, then you're not going to be successful.
Yeah, the fear of failure.
Yeah, I think definitely like Musashi, that is one extreme, because what more can you lay on the line than life or death?
Yeah, that's the highest one, dude.
But I think the issue is like that's so extreme.
Yeah, that's so extreme.
Is that really necessary where you have to lay your life?
Maybe it is though. Maybe it is. That's what I'm saying. Like that's a whole thing there. Like,
or maybe it's destructive. Like we know Musashi, but there probably is millions of other people in history who are sort of like, let me lay this in the line. And what did they get for it? They literally died.
Valhalla. They got to Valhalla, maybe.
And we know Musashi because he's the one person that never died. But we don't know about the million other fools who are like, life or death, let's go, boom. And then they're dead. No one wrote books about them.
Yep.
No one, they're just forgotten in history.
That is the downside to it. But then the other side that they would say is now you live the life of a coward. Because now you're always afraid of that, and that's always, someone can have power over you. Because let's say that two people enter a situation, and one is like Musashi. It's like, I'm willing to die for what I believe in. And the other one is like, oh no, I don't want to be in that situation. If push comes to shove, who's going to win? Like everything else being equal, the person who's willing to die is going to win because they're going to be willing to push it to that limit. Whereas the other guy is like, oh, it's uncomfortable now I'm tapping out or whatever. So I don't know. It's something interesting.
I see that, but I also see that it has to be something that is...
It has to be something that's worth
dying
for. It can't just be like hamburgers or something.
Like,
I want to die for French fries.
That makes... Okay, so I'm thinking about, like, if I were to imagine your mom hearing about the risk you're taking riding a motorcycle, what would her reaction be? Her reaction be is like, is that really worth it? You know, it's like, because you're her son.
Yeah.
You know, like she, you know, definitely like gave life to you. She loves you.
Right.
And she wants you to have a full, fulfilling life, meaningful life. And I think it would like make her sad, unfortunately, to like hear you say like, I accept that I'm going to ride a motorcycle and part of that's going to like mean I might die. Like, you know what I mean? Like that might be...
Well, I didn't do it that callously, but yeah, on some level.
Like yeah, that's not something. That's not something you would ever say. You know? Yeah.
No, I mean, and if other people don't want to ride a motorcycle, like I guess I wasn't saying that to say like if you don't ride a motorcycle you're a pussy. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that's the only time. That's the only time because I've never been in the military or anything like that. So that's the only, and that's not the same thing as being a samurai. Like not even close.
No, you're just talking about the mindset.
That's the only taste of that mindset I have had. That's all I'm saying. It's not even the full mindset. It's just like a taste of it. But that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. You know what that makes me think of is that it just seems that people have an inherent need to do something like that, where they're risking something that's worth it. People want to be brave. People want to do something extraordinary, dangerous. There's not everyone, but it seems like through history, like humans, a lot of humans are hardwired to find that. You see that with base jumpers who are like, hey, let me do this thing. Best outcome is I jump off this thing, I land, I'm okay. But like 50% of the time, things can get fucked up and I could die.
Yeah.
Like why do that? It's the experience. They feel
the
alive.
Adrenaline rush or whatever.
Yeah. But what is the benefit of that? Why even take that risk reward ratio for normal, like, sane people,
Right.
it doesn't add up.
No, I don't think that adds up. No, I wouldn't do that either. I think that's those types of things. I'm not interested in that.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I see what you're saying. That would be the argument. But
It's I can see their point of view, where it's for the experience, it's for the art, it's for that's when they're really living. I can see.
Yeah, because you're gonna feel so alive, probably. Because
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I thought I was gonna die, but I lived. Like that's gonna be like a crazy rush. Mm-hmm. But then the other one, okay, so that's just like the chemical sensation of like in your brain, like overcoming the fear of death and being alive through like base jumping or a motorcycle or whatever. But like this one is also like having something to die for, like as a belief system. That's what I'm saying. Like that's like a bigger concept where it's like people are willing to die for their country, or they're willing to die for their religion, or they're willing to die for their family or whatever.
That's something that's worthwhile.
Yeah, that's like a primal thing.
Yeah.
That's like a caveman thing. You're like, I'm defending my tribe, and the other tribe is attacking me and trying to take my women, and I'm gonna kill them. Like that is like the most primal thing that's like built into people, right? That's what I think. So that, when you don't tap into that, that's when it's like your brain is kind of like not developed all the way almost. I mean, I don't know. I've never developed that, but I'm just speculating. That's what it seems like.
Yeah, it's about finding your purpose.
Yeah, you gotta have a purpose, because we don't have that to where you're willing to die for it. Then you're kind of just like in a mediocre sense of existence for everything. You're like, well, there's a limit. There's a limit to it. Like, oh, I can be bribed. I can be bought. I can be corrupted.
You're not really living.
Not really living.
Yeah.
But nobody feels that unless, I don't know. It's hard to say, because like, I don't know. There might, maybe it's not, but to me it's different. Like the people that are like, oh, we're willing to die for adrenaline, and then, but now this will be another one. So the people in the modern military, like that, if they're rational and they're aware of what's happening, which that we're assuming they are, then it's like they're accepting like they might die, and they're like okay with that, and they're like doing it for the Constitution, for America, for democracy, or maybe for American empire, whatever it is. They're doing it for something like that. So they're willing to die for that. Okay. So it's like that's a thing where it's like that's what they're willing to die for. Because if someone's like, okay, now I'm coming to the table and in this theoretical argument, I'm a dictator or whatever, I'm Russia or China, whatever, and I'm going to take that away, and the Constitution is going to be null and void, and you're not going to have that, and this guy is saying, no, I'm willing to die to stop you from doing that.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. That's like a noble thing. But the problem is we haven't had wars recently where we've been invaded, where it's like a real threat. It's more just like now we're going out and doing all these. So it's kind of different.
It's conceptual.
Yeah, it's
right
like you have to
now.
think about it in your head, like, oh, maybe
It's
they would
not
make it back.
someone's knocking on, like the enemy's knocking on your door,
Right.
taking away your family. It's not that. It's like an abstract concept where
Yes.
somewhere far away, if this wins, there's going to be a domino effect.
And then eventually, the guy will come over here or whatever.
Yeah, it's far
Yeah.
removed. Yeah.
But if you're one of those guys, like to flip it on the other side, like if you're like one of those, like in Iraq and Afghanistan days, if you're like the Al Qaeda guy, to him it's real. To him, he's fighting for something.
His family, yeah.
Like, yeah, he's,
And historically, those wars have gone very bad for the people that didn't have as much skin in the game.
Yeah, like Vietnam, that's another one where it's like it's just guerrilla warfare. You're like, oh, they don't have as much resources, they don't have as much training or experience,
But it's real
they're
to them.
winning because it's real to them, because they're willing to push it that far.
And
There's
then
no limit.
The soldiers in Vietnam, they're just realizing that this might be a scam. They're killing their own officers. They're killing their own.
Oh yeah, the fragging or whatever.
Exactly, because they're realizing that it's not, the equation's not worth it. The purpose is
To stop the spread of communism, they said, or something like that.
Yeah.
But that's just like an indirect benefit. It's not like Vietnam. The Vietnamese were like invading California and we have to like push them out. Like that would make sense. Then we'd be like, join the army and push them out and restore America. Then of course, who wouldn't join the army and die for that? But like this one is kind of like, I don't know, this is a different, that's a different way of looking at it.
That's something like you were saying, it's primal. Where,
I think it's like a primal thing.
Exactly. It's that you can't really force it. It's something where you have that in you. You feel that where this is life and death. I'm gonna die for my country, or I'm not. Or it's like, I guess you can lie to yourself, but in the back of the head, you can be like I'm not sure if this is real.
Yeah.
I mean, that's gonna affect you.
Oh yeah, when you're out there, I don't think you can have those thoughts. You have to be committed, like 100%. I believe I'm ready to die. Okay, now I do the mission.
Yeah.
Came back halfway through the mission and be like, oh, maybe I don't want to die for this.
So, do you think Musashi, like his reason for his life reason for being, you think it was worth it? Because his thing was like, I just want to be the best swordsman in the world. It's not like he doesn't have a high purpose higher than that. Where like, I'm dying for my country. I'm dying for my family. It's like, I just want to be the best at this skill, and I'm willing to risk my life. Now, is that enough reason to risk life, kill people, and do all that?
I don't know. That's a good question, because it is very different from being like, oh, I'm dying for a cause or the country or whatever, and then, oh, I'm just dying so people know I'm a good swordsman, basically.
Yeah.
Like, or even you could say it's so I know myself that I'm living to my own personal ethics, maybe, however you want to frame it, but it's still the same thing. It's just like, I'm dying to be the best swordsman.
Yeah. So how I interpret Musashi is that in the one sense, it is definitely a little bit selfish, maybe a little bit foolish to be like, what are you really proving? I'm like the best swordsman. But on the other hand, it was a lot more to him. It meant a lot more to him. This was about his art. This was about his way of being. So this is about perfecting a skill set, perfecting an art. And for that art, for that abstraction, that's the most important thing to him. And that's something that he was willing to die for. So unless you have that mindset, I don't think you can really understand. And I would never like really understand like the extremes that he went.
Yeah, I get, well, like what you're saying, but I guess like in his mind, if he didn't do that, then he was like being a traitor to his own existence, or maybe to like his parents or his ancestors. Like, I don't know, you could think up in your head like reasons. Like, it's not the same thing as dying for your country or whatever, but it's still, you could make it kind of like that. Where like my family's reputation or something. But really, ultimately, it's his reputation. So it's like, I guess in his mind, he just was like, I have to die for this. Because at any moment, someone could have been a better swordsman and he could have been the second best in the world, but that one guy was a little bit better and they would still die and just be a bum that died.
Yeah, and we would never know Musashi.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like, he was willing to risk that? Like, that's pretty insane. And it's not even in the middle of a war where you're fighting for your lord or for the nation of Japan or whatever. You're just going around instigating duels. No one's attacking you. You're attacking other people for 50 or 60 times or however many times he did it. Like, that's pretty insane. Like, so I think in the end, like, he's a little crazy probably. Like, he's gotta be a little crazy.
He's a little insane person. Yeah, for sure. By today's standard,
yeah,
he's insane.